Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lilybrook Early Steps videos, where we explore different topics together, whether you are in an apprenticeship or you're just seeking to discover more about your subject area. This week we're going to focus on risk assessments and introduction. Starting with, what do we need to know? What is a risk assessment? Whose responsibility is it in the workplace to risk assess? And an introduction to poisonous plants that might be in your garden or your outside area that you need to look out for, chemicals and fire risks, the equipment maintenance, staff supervision, and other risks that you may come across whilst working within the early years. Well, before we do all of that, we need to think about the definition of the word risk. Well, risk is any situation that could involve potential exposure to danger, to someone or something valued that could potentially cause harm or potentially loss of life. Now, the act of assessing is you looking, judging, and deciding what importance that risk is and how are you going to mitigate that risk? What are you going to do to reduce that risk factor? Now, Ofsted says on page 38 of the current statutory guidance that providers must ensure that they take all reasonable steps to ensure staff and children in their care are not exposed to any risks and must be able to demonstrate how they are managing risks. Providers must determine where it is helpful to make some risk assessments that are written. Now, not everyone does write them down, but I personally find it really good, especially when some members of staff are quite experienced and some are not. So some staff members might find it easier for them to have something written down. Now, part of that is creating a system that can ensure compliance with regulation, law, such as policies, procedures that your workplace is going to work to, and that everyone understands those policies and procedures. For example, you might have audits that you do every term. It could be once a month. It could be that you've got daily checklists, or you've done a deep analysis into the weak points or the safety concerns within your nursery. They might even be as a result of something that's been raised by a parent, a child, a visitor, or so forth. You might plan how you're going to risk reduce and who's going to be in charge of ensuring that's going to happen. So that comes as your supervising person who's going to supervise that system and review those policies and procedures, look at regular audits and demonstrate, is this system working? But most importantly, you need to be diligent, careful, and make sure that you are trying your utmost to follow the law. Where is it helpful to have a written assessment? So we have debates about this all the time in the early years. Do we need written risk assessments? As you've heard from the latter, I do believe that written risk assessments are quite helpful. They're helpful for parents to understand how we're taking steps to reduce risks. It also demonstrates a whole team approach. When you have something written down and something that everyone's signed and something that everyone's contributed to, it shows a group approach to reducing risk, and all staff should be able to explain the same level of understanding of what a risk is, how is it going to be reduced, and also have the same consistent level of knowledge. And if they don't know what to do, they know where to go and find the answers. The most important part with Ofsted, if you don't know the answer, you know who to go to and where to find that information. Now, whose responsibility is it? The simple answer to this is that it's everyone's responsibility to safeguard the children in your care. It's your responsibility, everyone's responsibility, to look at what dangers there are in the environment, whether that's for visitors, staff members, parents, children, and that includes making daily checks, whether it be checking the fire escapes aren't blocked or the equipment has been maintained. There needs to be policies and procedures that are reviewed regularly, probably your manager or your health and safety designated person, and reflect and investigate any areas of risk and put next steps in place if there needs to be. There also needs to be someone in your workplace who actually has that role of being actually responsible for the health and safety concerns, needs of the setting, and also making sure that next steps are followed, reported, and they need to be overseeing this work and regularly reviewing whether these jobs have been done. There needs to be records kept of checks or the ability to say where to go to find like the detailed records in regards to someone who's checked the fire hydrants, for example. Training for staff. There must be a record of training of staff in health and safety on understanding risk. It might even be professional discussions between a manager or a designated person in charge of overseeing new apprentices. Now, the legislation. The Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 places that responsibility on employers to ensure that the workplace is as safe as possible. This means that there needs to be insurances that are displayed, that you can see, that are in date. So first thing you need to do is go and check your insurance. Is it in date? Who do you tell? Probably your manager, or if someone else that's designated as the health and safety person, let them know if it's out of date, or you need to just put the new certificate up, but it should always be in date and always easily accessible. Each setting should have a health and safety poster detailing who is responsible for your health and safety at your setting. Go and find that poster, see if it's up. Who is on that poster? You should also have records in regards to the kind of equipment in regards to sprays or substances that you use for cleaning, where there's records to show exactly what the warnings are on them. There needs to be a cost record for each individual item that you use. Staff must know where to be able to get those records, understand what the usage of them. So in our workplace, one of the things that we learnt a little while ago actually was that with some products, you have to spray them onto a surface and wait for so many minutes or seconds before you're allowed to wipe them away. Otherwise, they actually don't work. So unless you read these instructions, you're not going to actually know what and how they're supposed to be used. So in all fairness, yes, even fairy liquid should be risk assessed and have a cost. Where is it going to be placed? Who's going to have access to it? How is it going to be used? And did you know that some actually have a date by which they run out or they must be thrown? Not all of them, but it's always good for you to know the equipment that you're using and what the instructions are for those. All staff need to be aware of this from their induction. So it'd be good practice to have signed records, if you're a manager, of these conversations with staff. For example, here's a fairy liquid bottle. As you can see, there is a warning on the back. It has a label. Every product has a label. If you haven't got a label that you can see, you can always go to the manufacturer's website and you can often find the details of that product in order to help you fill in your COSH record. Products have directions. They have use by dates too sometimes. And in the case of us, we had a local authority food inspector who actually told us that they have specific lists of approved cleaning products. So it might be a good idea to give your local your food protection agency a call in the local council and ask them what products are on their list if they have one. In your garden, you'll go outside and you might think, oh, we've got all these beautiful plants. Some of them are actually really dangerous. One of the ones that shocked us actually was daffodils. We didn't realise how poisonous they could actually be to a child. And when you have potentially some children with pica, which is the eating of non-food stuff, we have children who might try to chew on a flower or eat a flower. It's not what we want them to do. But as nature be, children could do these things. And as part of your risk assessments, you have to think of the potential for harm. So here's a little list, not very comprehensive as such, but it's a starter list for you to look at and think, do I have any of these flowers in my garden? I need to do an audit of what flowers we have. You could easily take a picture of them and put them on Google and it could show you what their names are. Now, what risks am I looking for as a professional? You need to be looking for things that are broken. It might be a broken fence. It might be a stone paving that's upturned a little bit. It could be things such as the daffodils that could be potentially ingested and could cause harm. There might be sharp things like knives. What knives are you going to use, say, for cookery activities? And if they're sharp, who's going to be looking after them? Is it individual risk assessments for individual activities? Could it be a broken toy with a sharp edge? What will you do with it? Liquids of unknown origin, everything should be labelled. If it's unlabelled, obviously, what are you going to do with it? Animal feces like fox poo can actually cause toxicaris, which can cause blindness in young children. Poisonous plants, as we've covered already. First aid provisions, are they well stocked? When was the last time it was checked? Are your fire exits blocked? Are they working? Is there fire equipment? And has it been regularly serviced? When was the last service? And who's responsible for this? Is it an agency or a contractor? And do you have the correct firefighting equipment for the size of your setting? Are there any choking hazards? Always someone should be at that table with children when they are eating or playing with sensory play. Do you have an up-to-date allergy list? And do you have arrangements in place for those supervisions? Potential stranger danger access points, and identify escape points in your outside area and inside area. Is there any structural or electoral faults or natural dangers such as trees being uprooted in severe weather? Other items such as condoms, needles, knives, unidentified objects hidden in bushes, you never know. Staff knowledge of danger and the ability to know what is danger is really important. And also contemplating how weather predictions could affect potentially the day for the children, both inside and outside. What might I risk assess? Well, you're going to be looking at the inside area, the outside area, activities. Specialist activities such as woodwork is a big one. I mean, it's fine to do woodwork, but you need to make sure that it's supervised adequately. And have you risk assessed each part of what's going to be involved? Trips to the park or a care home or the library. If a member of staff is pregnant and they're coming back to work, or during pregnancy, how do they need to be supported? What can they do? What can't they do? If someone's been off sick, what support do they need after coming back to ensure that you're supporting them the best you can? It might be a risk assessment in that sense as a manager. If there is an outbreak of sickness, how are you going to manage that? Safeguarding. As and when required, each individual case may need a risk assessment of some sort. There might be building work that's due to happen. Do you need to contact Ofsted? What risk does it pose potentially? Visitors, contractors, policies and procedures for this, temporary workers and agency staff, DBSs, children's individual needs. If a child has additional needs, they might need extra support and need a risk assessment, which could support you with the HCP applications. Staff, parents, children, anyone who accesses the setting or students need risk assessments in some instances. There needs to be procedures. We need to think about products, materials. Well, that's all from me today. If you have anything that you want me to go over, or there's anything you want to hear more about, please subscribe to us and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is there anything more you want me to go through? Nice to see you all, and see you again soon for another edition of Lilybrook Early Steps. If you have any suggestions, put them in the comments. See you soon.